So let's get started. Let me pull up our trusty Hadith website, which is called what? Does anybody remember? Sunnah.com. That's right. Let's go to Sunnah.com. And which Hadith were we doing? Hadith number 2. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, which was the Hadith Jibril. It's called Hadith Jibril, just a reminder for you. And we read this whole Hadith last time, and we gave kind of a preface about this Hadith. And now we're going to break it down. That's what we were planning on doing this time. So let's start to break this down, okay? So let me just remind you the structure of the Hadith. The first part of it is usually, so it's not actually, let me skip that. Maybe we'll talk about it another time. So a man, really nice looking man with jet black hair, white clothes, came and sat in front of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, put his knees next to the knees of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and put his hands on the thighs of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and started to ask him questions, right? So what was the first question he asked him? Ya Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, akhbirni anil Islam. Tell me what Islam is, okay? We will do another hadith after this that we will dive into the details of the meaning of Islam, but we're just going to do a cursory review right now. We're going to dive into the rest of the hadith, okay? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then responded, Al-Islamu, what is the word Islam? What does it mean? We will talk about that later on, okay? So what is Islam? An, that, tashhada, that you testify, an, that, la ilaha illallah, there is no God worthy of worship except Allah, wa anna, and verily that Muhammadan Rasulullah, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah. And what is, so this is the first pillar of Islam, right? And we have 5 pillars. This is where we get it from, okay? This is the hadith where we get it from. And la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah wa tuqim as-salah, and that you establish prayer, salah, wa tu'ti az-zakah, and that you give charity, wa tasuma Ramadan, and that you fast Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, wa tahajjul bayta, and that you do pilgrimage to the house, which is Makkah, Kaaba. In istata'ta ilayhi sabila, if you are able to find a means to it. So Hajj is mandatory if you have the means to do Hajj. And then we will break this down, inshallah, in our next hadith later on. And then after hearing this response from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that man who was actually Jibril alayhi salam, he said, Sadaqt, you have told the truth. فَعَجِبْنَا لَهُ. And then Umar radiallahu anhu is actually who's narrating this hadith, this story. Then Umar said, these are his words, فَعَجِبْنَا لَهُ. Then we were so amazed by this, that somebody could dare, because he didn't know at that time this was Jibril alayhi salam, somebody could dare and actually tell Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you're right. He's Rasulullah. Of course he's right. So he was really weirded out by that. He's like, how can that be? That he asks him a question, he dares to ask him a question and test him. And then when he answers the question, he actually says, "Wa yusaddiqu," and he says him that yes, you're right. Oh wow! So he was really blown away by the behavior of that man. At that time, he didn't know it was Jibril alayhi salam. Then we move on to the next question. Then Jibril alayhi salam asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Fa'akhbirni anil iman." Then tell me about iman. Okay, so here we learn immediately from this hadith that the meaning of Islam and Iman is different. What is the difference between Islam and Iman? Let's first read and then we'll break it down, inshallah. Okay. So Rasulullah responded to the question what Iman is. He said, and then let's start counting. An tu'mina billah, that you believe in Allah. Tu'mina, that you believe. First, that was testify. Okay, and this is different from belief. Okay, an tu'mina billah, that you believe in Allah, wa malaikatihi, and his angels, wa kutubihi, and his books, wa rusulihi, and his messengers, wal yawmil akhir, and the last day, wa tu'mina, and that you believe bil qadr. Okay, so 6. Okay, did you count? So there's 6 pillars of Iman. This is where we learn from this hadith. وَتُؤْمِنَ بِالْقَدْرِ خَيْرِهِ وَشَرِّهِ, the good of it and the bad of it. The destiny, our life, our fate, whatever happens, whether good happens or bad happens, we believe in it. Basically, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Great. So these are the pillars of Iman. Let's break it down further. So first, what does the word Iman mean?
Faith.
Iman means, Go ahead.
Faith.
Go ahead.
Faith in Islam.
Faith. Yeah, conviction, something that's deep down from inside. It doesn't come from the mind. It comes from a conviction that is deeply rooted. Okay? Iman. All right. Typically, when Islam and Iman are used synonymously in the Quran and the Hadith most of the time when they come by themselves. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a particular ayah says Islam, it encompasses Iman. And what is Islam, by the way, just very quickly for the sake of our discussion here? Islam means submission. It has a lot of meanings. It also means peace. But Islam actually comes from, according to one interpretation, comes from istislam, which means submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever Allah wills, whatever Allah commands, I submit to that. So we are submission. So we are submitting ourselves to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what Islam means. So as I was saying, Islam and Iman, when they come separately, they kind of mean the same thing. But if they come together, so there's a general rule in interpretation, especially of tafsir and hadith, that when two words are come together in a particular concept, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to signify that there's a difference between the understanding of these two things when they come together. But if they come separately, there may be synonymous, what might seem synonymous. So there is a difference, and we know there is a difference. And Allah and Rasulullah responded, okay, what's Islam? The 5 pillars of Islam, which are exterior actions, testifying from your tongue that La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and to pray, which is an exterior action, and to pay zakah, which is an exterior action, and to fast, which is an exterior bodily action, and to do pilgrimage, and to do hajj, which is an exterior action. But look at Iman. These are all internal actions, right? Belief and conviction inside that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and actually believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can anybody judge that? Nobody can judge that. Can anybody see that in you? Nobody can see that, right? So Islam, you can judge somebody's Islam. Is he praying? Is he fasting? Is he paying zakah? Did he do hajj when he was able to do it or not, right? You can judge. When I'm saying judge, I'm not saying judge people. I'm saying you can still have an idea whether somebody is a good practicing Muslim or not, right? But whether somebody is actually a believing Muslim, this is where the Iman comes in. So belief in Allah, belief in the angels. Do you believe in that belief is also comes from inside, and belief in the books, actually believing what you're reading in the Quran, that these are the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. and that you believe in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as his messenger and all the prophets before him from Adam alayhi salam, since the time of Adam alayhi salam, and believing in the last day, and making sure that every single moment of your lives you're focused on the day of judgment, that's what you're doing. So that belief, and in the belief that whatever tests Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts me through, I'm going to try to be patient and persevere through them. So that is all inside. These are all internal actions. Okay, so that's the difference between Islam and Iman. Okay. Does Islam increase or decrease? Does you might not pray, but you still kind of have you still are testifying that you're a Muslim. So that's kind of a binary thing. You either are a Muslim or you're not a Muslim. However, whether you're a mu'min, whether you're a believing Muslim or not, that has grades. And how do we learn this? We learn this from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran tells us that Iman goes up and down. Sometimes you're spiritually not quite there. Sometimes, as a result, your Iman is weak. You must have heard about this, right? Where you don't feel like praying, you don't feel like really listening to Islamic lectures and those kinds of things. You don't really feel the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are other times, especially when you come out of khutbah, Jummah khutbah, and you get this Iman boost and your Iman is all-time high. Or hopefully after these Deen Academy sessions, you feel like your Iman is all-time high and you feel like doing a lot of good things and contemplating about your life and your actions and everything like that, and imagine yourself standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Iman can go up and down. Okay. So let me look at my notes here really quickly. So what is Iman? Iman is the belief in the heart, and it results in statements from the tongue. When you actually believe, you actually then want to testify that you believe in something, right? You're actually going to talk about it. I believe in Allah, and then you will say, I believe in Allah, that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you believe in the angels, you are going to say things about the angels. You're going to acknowledge them. When you believe in the books, you're going to talk about it, right? So it's the statements of the tongue that result from statements of Iman. Well, I mean, feelings and belief in the Iman. And as a result, not just the tongue, but they result in the action of the limbs. So you are then going to want to do good things and give zakah and pray and fast because your Iman is strong and it's pushing your Islam forward. Okay. So one trick I will tell you, anytime these two things are complementary. So when your Iman is going up and down and it's really at a weak point, increase your ibadah, increase your actions, increase your good deeds, be nicer to people, be more patient to people, go build a house for the poor people, go give zakah, increase your good actions, right? Pray more prayer, add your nawafil, that will help boost your Iman. And then when your Iman is high, then it's going to then further strengthen your Islam. Okay, so that's what Iman is. Any questions on Iman?
No.
Okay, you guys understand now, hopefully, what Iman is and what Islam is. Okay, again, I want to highlight, you can judge a person's Islam, but you cannot judge a person's Iman. Okay, I'll tell you a little story that hopefully will stick with you. There was a Sahabi, a very, very, very important Sahabi, in the midst of the battle, a battle, he was about to overcome, he overcame the enemy. So he was a disbeliever at that time. And when he was overcome, suddenly the disbeliever said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. He said, he basically said the Shahada. And the Sahabi went ahead and killed him anyway. After Rasulullah ﷺ heard about this, and he got extremely upset at that Sahabi. He said, did you tear open his heart and see that he was not a Muslim? Because his argument was to Rasulullah ﷺ, he only said the Shahada because I overcame him and he didn't want to die. So he was saying the Shahada to protect himself. And Rasulullah ﷺ basically said, you should have stopped because he testified that he was a Muslim. You cannot judge what's in the heart. He said, did you open up his chest and tear it apart and see if he was a Muslim or not? No, you can't do that. You can't judge anybody's Iman. So anyone who says Assalamu alaikum, anybody who prays, anybody who reveres the Kaaba like we do, Rasulullah ﷺ told us, you consider them Muslims. Okay? No ifs and buts about it. You're not supposed to judge anybody's aqidah or Iman. All right. So hopefully that story will resonate with you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks very strongly in the Quran about how we are not supposed to judge people's Iman, and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows people's Iman. All right. Now let's break it down even more. Okay. Now we have a general idea what Iman is. Then what does belief in Allah mean? Okay, so scholars, Tawheed and the whole Aqidah part and belief in Allah is a very multifaceted type of a belief. You may not realize it, and as I start talking, you'll slowly realize it, hopefully. We have 4 minutes left, and we'll just do this part, and then we'll continue on, inshallah, later on. Like I said, I wanted to spend more time on this hadith because it's really, really important that we focus on this foundational stuff, and then we move on. Okay, so belief in Allah. Okay, so our amazing scholars have, just to help people understand the belief in Allah, they have divided it into 3 categories. Okay, so this is very important. I hope you are, guys, by the way, I forget to say this every single time, I hope you are taking notes. Okay, this is going to help you guys for the rest of your life, because you're going to listen to me now and you're going to forget. Okay, so some of the things that I highlight, I want you to take these notes so you retain them. Okay, so belief in Allah, Iman Billah, has 3 major components, and I will bring up my trusty Miro board, and we can start writing these things out. Okay. So number 1. So what are we saying? Iman Billah, belief in Allah. Okay. So this has 3 important categories that just help us understand and grasp this concept of what does belief in Allah mean. The first one is called Lordship of Allah. Belief in the Lordship of Allah. What does this mean? This is an Arabic term, word for it. It's called Tawheed Ar-Rububiyyah. Tawheed Ar-Rububiyyah, Lordship of Allah. Let's actually list the 3 and then we'll talk about them. The second one is called the belief in the worship worthiness, I'll call it worship worthiness of Allah. Okay, this is called Tawheed al-Uluhiyya. Okay, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyya, and then belief in the attributes, the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we'll talk about them in a little bit more detail. Maybe we will do this next time because we're almost over. I want you to remember this, okay? Tawheed al-Asma was-Sifat. Asma is a plural of ism, names, and Sifat, the attributes. Okay, Tawheed al-Asma was-Sifat. Okay, so these are the 3 dimensions of how we can help better grasp what belief in Allah means. And you'll be fascinated by it. As we break this down, this is going to make so much more sense to you, okay? Some scholars don't really like to break down Tawheed this way. And that is completely understandable, because Tawheed is one unit. Why are you breaking down a unit? Because you have to have all these things at the same time. Yes, that is correct. But and some other scholars argue, no, this helps to better understand the different aspects and dimensions of Tawheed. And that makes a lot of sense as well. So we'll break it down and understand them this way, inshallah ta'ala, next time around. Okay? Any questions before we adjourn? All right. You guys have a wonderful weekend, the rest of the weekend, and a wonderful week, inshallah. We will see you next time. Anything that I said which was incorrect, that was from shaitan, and anything that I said correctly, that was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah forgive me for any mistakes that I made, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week.